The moment we met again. Before we begin this emotional story, make sure to hit subscribe, like, and share, so you don't miss the next chapter of this unforgettable journey. The night sky above Seoul shimmered like a sea of quiet diamonds as city lights danced below, reflecting the restless heartbeat of millions. Yet among the endless stories being written in that sleepless city, one tale glowed brighter than all the rest, the story of MinHo and Hye Kyo. Two names that had once defined an entire generation of romance now stood at the center of something deeper, mysterious, and utterly breathtaking. It all began on a quiet autumn morning, when MinHo returned from years away from the spotlight. The world had not forgotten him. Cameras still loved the angle of his face, and fans still whispered his name as if it carried magic. But this time, his return wasn't about fame or glamour. It was about something unseen, something that had drawn him back to Seoul. He moved with calm confidence, wearing a dark coat that danced with the wind as he walked through Gwanghwamun Square. His eyes carried a story that no one could read, not yet. At the same moment, across the city, Hye Kyo stood in front of a wide mirror in a quiet studio. The morning light touched her face softly, revealing both grace and quiet strength. Her life had changed too. She was no longer just the nation's sweetheart. She had become something timeless, a woman who had learned how to rebuild from silence. Her new project was about to begin, one that would unexpectedly reconnect her to the man whose path she had crossed years ago, only once, under very strange circumstances. When their names appeared side by side in the same film announcement, the internet exploded. Fans screamed, critics gasped, and the world held its breath. MinHo and Hye Kyo together, it felt like a dream no one dared to imagine. The first day on set was filled with quiet tension. Cameras rolled, and lights blazed with the power of creation. Their first scene together wasn't scripted as romantic, yet the entire crew froze the moment they faced each other. The air changed. Time seemed to pause. Her gaze met his, steady and unreadable. He smiled faintly, a kind of smile that felt like a memory trying to return. For a second, everyone forgot it was acting. Days turned into weeks. The film's story, about two strangers bound by a forgotten past, began to mirror something real. MinHo found himself drawn to the quiet mystery behind Hye Kyo's eyes, while she felt an unexplainable familiarity whenever he was near. The director noticed their chemistry, but even he didn't know the truth. What was unfolding in front of the camera was no longer fiction. One evening, after shooting a scene at Namsan Tower, the two stayed behind while the city lights flickered below. The air was crisp, carrying the distant echo of music from the streets. Hye Kyo leaned on the railing, lost in thought. "You've changed," MinHo said softly, stepping closer. "Everyone changes," she replied without looking at him. "Not like this," he whispered. Her eyes met his again, and something broke, not in pain, but in recognition. A forgotten promise, a connection from another time, hidden behind years of silence. It wasn't love at first sight. It was love that had waited patiently, surviving quietly in memory. As filming continued, their story became more than art. Behind closed doors, they shared long conversations about life, loss, and dreams. Sometimes they laughed like children. Sometimes they sat in silence, letting the night speak for them. There were moments when the camera caught glimpses of truth that even they couldn't hide, the way MinHo's hand lingered near hers, or how her smile softened whenever he spoke her name. Then came the final scene of the movie, set on a beach in Jeju Island. The sky burned orange as waves rolled softly against the shore. The script called for a goodbye, a painful separation between their characters. Yet as the camera began to roll, MinHo ignored the written lines. He walked toward her, eyes filled with emotion, and said words that weren't in the script. "I don't want this to end," he said. Hye Kyo froze. For a heartbeat, she wasn't acting anymore. The world around them blurred into sound and light. The director didn't yell cut. He couldn't. What was happening was real, a moment that would live forever in the hearts of everyone who saw it. When the movie finally premiered, fans across the world were captivated. Every scene felt alive, every emotion raw. People whispered that there was something more between them, something the cameras couldn't hide. But neither MinHo nor Hye Kyo ever confirmed it. They smiled politely at interviews, spoke about good teamwork and respect, but their eyes told another story, one too deep for words. Months later, they were seen again, not on a red carpet, but walking quietly through a small art gallery in Seoul. No cameras followed them that night. Only soft music filled the air, and the warmth of two souls that had found something unspoken. Perhaps what drew the world to them wasn't fame or beauty, but the way their story felt human, two stars who met not just under lights and cameras, but under the gentle truth of fate. And maybe, just maybe, that's what made their story feel like a movie that never really ends. The night after the art gallery visit was quiet, the kind of silence that carries more meaning than words ever could. Seoul glowed beneath the soft rain, reflections of neon lights painting the streets in colors that seemed to move with emotion. Inside a quiet cafe tucked away in a narrow street, MinHo sat by the window, his fingers tracing invisible lines on the glass as he watched the drops fall. He had always been calm, composed, and unreadable to the world. But lately, his thoughts had become louder than the city itself. Every scene he had filmed with Hye Kyo replayed in his mind, not as fiction, but as something real, something too honest to be forgotten. He didn't know when acting had stopped and when truth had begun, all he knew was that something about her had changed the rhythm of his life. The cafe door opened quietly. The soft bell chimed. She walked in. Hye Kyo, dressed simply in a light coat and scarf, carried the same elegance that had always surrounded her, yet there was a softness now, a quiet smile that could warm the coldest night. She spotted him instantly and walked over without a word. He rose to greet her, his expression unreadable yet warm. "I didn't think you'd come," he said softly. "I almost didn't," she replied, sitting across from him. "But something told me I should." For a moment, neither spoke. The sound of rain filled the space between them. The world outside seemed to fade away, leaving only the two of them, caught between what was real and what had been written. "You know," he said finally, "I keep thinking about that last scene. The way you looked at me, it didn't feel like acting." Her eyes lowered slightly. "Maybe it wasn't," she whispered. Silence again. The kind of silence that says everything words cannot. He leaned forward, his voice gentle. "What are you afraid of, Hye Kyo?" She smiled faintly, not out of joy, but out of understanding. "I'm not afraid of you," she said. "I'm afraid of what happens if I stop pretending that this isn't real." The rain outside grew heavier, tapping softly against the window like a secret rhythm. Their eyes met once more, and the tension that had lingered since that first day on set melted away. No more scripts. No more cameras. Just two hearts that had finally stopped running from the truth. They spent hours there, talking, remembering, laughing about small things, and dreaming about what could be next. She told him about her art, about the pieces she wanted to create that spoke of second chances. He told her about his wish to direct someday, to make something that wasn't about fame, but about moments that change people. As dawn approached, the rain stopped. The streets shimmered with light, and for the first time, the world felt still. MinHo stood, walked to her side, and quietly said, "Let's not let this be another story we forget." She looked up at him, eyes glistening softly. "Then let's write our own." Days turned into weeks, and what began as quiet meetings became something deeper. They were seen together at bookshops, quiet seaside cafes, and sometimes walking near the Han River, talking as if the rest of the world didn't exist. The media, of course, noticed. Rumors began to swirl again, whispers of love, of something real behind the smiles. But this time, neither of them denied it. They didn't need to. Their silence spoke louder than any interview ever could. Months later, the world watched as both of them appeared at an award ceremony. The hall glowed with elegance and expectation. When Hye Kyo's name was called for Best Actress, she stood gracefully and walked toward the stage. Her eyes caught MinHo's for a brief second, just enough to exchange a secret that only they understood. As she accepted her award, she said softly, "Sometimes, the best stories aren't written by directors or writers. They're written by the moments we choose not to let go." The audience erupted in applause. But in that instant, the cameras caught what fans had long suspected, the way MinHo smiled at her, a smile that carried pride, warmth, and something far deeper. After the ceremony, as the lights dimmed and the world outside roared with excitement, they met again in the quiet corridor behind the stage. She turned to him, holding her award gently. "So, what now?" she asked, half teasing. He smiled, taking her hand. "Now," he said, "we stop pretending this is a movie." And as they stepped out into the Seoul night, where stars blinked softly above the city that had once brought them together, the air seemed to hum with something electric, the beginning of something real. The cameras would move on, the fans would create stories of their own, but for MinHo and Hye Kyo, this was not an ending. It was the quiet start of a new chapter, one written not by fame or fiction, but by the gentle truth of two souls that finally found home in each other. Thank you for watching. More beautiful moments are coming soon, so like, share, and subscribe to stay part of the journey.